I literally think about records 24/7. Like, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning last night and all I thought about was records. Because I have to, like, you know, try to guess what people are into, you know? Like, I'm constantly gambling on placing orders for stuff, hoping that this is what enough people are into to be able to sell all these records. Especially when it comes to trying to, like, branch off into new stuff, you know? Like, I guess if I wanted to, I could only order like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and Beatles records, and they would always sell. I guess it wouldn't be as much stress trying to decide what people want, but that would also be so boring. And who's to say I won't find comfort in the things that pull me under? I graduated from college with a philosophy degree, super marketable major to have, and was going to move and all this stuff, and basically just through meeting Jessica and my friend Danny that were opening Eleanor's at the time, the coffee shop next to me, and this space that we're in being open, me having left another record store and my buddy Renee's shop closing down, which was actually right behind where I am now. I had actually approached Renee about going in with him to reopen his shop. I had already like contacted the landlord just to kind of like test the waters and see like how much rent was going to be, and had already like talked to a friend of mine that was like in between jobs at the time, like, hey, if I did this, would you be like down to help? And then his roommate was like, well, who's going to do your logo and all that stuff? And I was like, well, I guess you are, like, if you're down. And she was like, yeah, for sure. And I was like, what's your rate? And she was like, I just want to do it. And so all that stuff was kind of happening while I was still talking to my friend Renee. And Renee and I had met a couple of times about like how it all work and if we would pick a new name or use the same name that he had had, which was Dayglow Records. All of that stuff is happening before like an actual decision had been made. And so like by the time he was like, oh, I don't think it's the right time for me, I was already like, well, this person's down and this person's down to help, and the rent really isn't as bad as I was expecting, and so I think that's doable. And like I've already started to kind of come to terms with like getting rid of a lot of my records and like parting with a lot of my personal collection. And so at that point it was just like, all right, let's do it, you know. And so then we just did it. I mean, I made easily the biggest move that I've ever made other than just opening the store. I bought like a 10,000 record collection. It was like 10 or 12,000 records. So I'd known this guy for a while, and he had approached me. Well, I don't know, we had talked about it on and off to varying levels of seriousness over the years, but he had approached me and was like, okay, like I'm selling my entire collection soon. You're the first person to have right of refusal, you know, so tell me what you want to do. Jews for Jesus? There's the most random stuff in here. Like stuff that I've never heard of. I don't know why somebody would buy. But this guy bought a bunch of random stuff. We had set a date, March 1st. I was going to go over to his house with a check and load 10 to 12,000 records, a ton of posters, a bunch of magazines, and a pinball machine into a U-Haul and like drive it over here. All right, cool. Here's the first like batch of stuff that's like in the store. It was like a dozen U-Haul boxes. Like I just need to start going through and start pricing stuff. And, you know, I'd had this idea that we were going to do like Fresh Friday because I had so many records to like put out. And I was like, okay, so every Friday, that'll be the day where I put everything out and people can come and like dig. And it's like a thing to get excited about. For reference, our total square footage of the store that I'm in is like 805 square feet. We might have occupied a third of it on the first day we opened. Like basically everything in the back was just empty because I didn't have enough stuff to fill it. From going from there to like purchasing like a 10 to 12,000 record collection, that's like a huge move, and it was supposed to be like an absolute game changer for us. Like it was supposed to like, the idea was that we are now like the ultimate place to come buy records south of San Antonio, and like no one can touch us, you know? That'll be a good sell, or at least an easy sell. It's not a super high dollar record, but someone will buy it and I won't have to try to convince them. I don't know, it's probably like the 10th or 11th, things are starting to get like pretty serious. And then by the 14th, I'm like, okay, we're closed. So we had 2 Fresh Fridays in person, and it was like people were really digging it, and we were really like moving records, you know, every week. The entire row of new arrivals, I was putting out all new stuff. And then we're closed. And like, what do I do? And I was like, I guess I just have to start like, you know, trying to put stuff on eBay and like Discogs and like posting like a ton on Instagram, like way more than I ever have at any point in the shop's history, to try to sell stuff just to keep the doors open. And so that's what I was planning on doing. Is I was just like, okay, well, the store is closed. I don't really want to have to go a bunch of places, so I'm just going to work from home. And yeah, I'm just going to look through stuff and decide what box I want to take this week. And we're going to take it. And I was basically just like grabbing a box every 2 or 3 days and like pricing them and posting them and stuff. And actually, I think it was like the first week, maybe the second week that we were closed. Kylie, my wife, was, you know, I was like working on stuff, and she was like, "Oh, are you gonna do it? Like, are you still gonna do Fresh Friday?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. It's not like really a thing anymore if like the store's not open." And she's like, "We could still do it on Instagram." And I was like, "I don't know. I just don't think that that's the same thing. It's not the same like vibe. It's not the same feeling. It's not like as exciting." And she was like, "Well, yeah, but I mean, right now, especially when nobody can count on anything, like, you know, it'll be nice if people can count on every Friday seeing you post a bunch of records that they can buy." And I think this was on a Thursday, actually, like a Thursday morning, and I was like, oh crap, I gotta like figure something out, you know? And so I had to like kind of scramble that day and get a bunch of records together to post. And like we did our first Fresh Friday on Instagram, and it went pretty well. People seemed to respond well to it. And so basically, throughout the entire time that we were closed, it was Fresh Friday on Instagram every week, and that was like the bulk of like us like actually attempting to sell things to people, was posting anywhere between like 50 to 100 records. And so, you know, every hour I'm taking pictures. Like at like 10:45, I'd take all the pictures. At 11, they would get posted. From like 11 to 11:30 or so, I'm like writing people's orders down, and then I have like a little moment of catch up. And then you just run it back, and you do that for like 8 hours a day every Friday. And so we would do that. And then Monday I would come in, I would ship everything out, go pick up some more records, and start preparing for Friday again. And so we just did that over and over again for like 4 months. I think we're done. I think that's it for this week. 2 crates should be fine. And so basically what was supposed to be like this huge like push into like another level was like, no, this is just going to allow you not to close. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like gonna like elevate us or like take us soaring to new heights. It was just gonna keep us open, and that's what it did. I'd never been closed for maybe more than 3 days in a row.
Yeah, just in case one of them's not working right.
To go from never being closed for more than 3 consecutive days to being closed for 2 consecutive months twice is like fucked up.
Return policy?
Yeah, none of the teams.
Okay.
Yeah, and like also another part of that is like Josh was out of work for a long time, you know. You know, he worked here and he had another service industry job, and so the store being closed, I mean, it only affected one person other than me, but it still did affect him, you know, and like that sucks. Like I like don't want to have to lay anybody off.
Jojo Cat.
Doja Cat.
Doja Cat?
We don't have any Doja Cat.
No Doja Cat.
The world has kind of like caught up to this like new reality in which we live. Pretty much everyone has figured out that they need to have a fucking mask on them at all times. So we're back to a place where we can start allowing people in the store again. And that, you know, presents its own challenges because a lot of, you know, the way that our store is set up is like, there's like places to chill, you know, like our store is very much designed to be a place for you to lurk and like loiter, you know. And so, you know, you get that's still kind of happening where you'll get a group of people come in and not all of them are here to look, and some of them will sit on the couch, and it's just like, now is, in a pandemic, is not really the time for you to be like here without a purpose, you know. And so like trying to keep the occupancy down and stuff can be challenging at times because you don't want to be rude to people, obviously. And you still want your store to have the same identity that it had before. Like we still want people to like, once this is all over, feel like this is a place that they can like be comfortable and hang out and stuff. what do we do? You know, like, do we try to just go back to normal, or do we still put time and effort into like putting product on our website for people to buy? How much of both of these worlds like are we putting our focus into? Like, how much of the digital space do we occupy from like an actual like retail perspective and not just like a brand presence perspective? How much are we trying to get people to come and gather in the store? Like, before all of this happened, like a big part of what we did was like event oriented and community oriented. Like, we'd have bands play here, we'd have art shows, we've had like short film shoot here before. We'd have big record store day events with, you know, DJs and like people lining up outside and like a keg and like all sorts of stuff. I think that we are, you know, slowly kind of turning into like a lifestyle brand almost. Like, we have a lot of records, but you know, we also carry like field notes, because I think everything Aaron Draplin does is dope. And we like are now like pulling like vintage band t-shirts. So like our t-shirt rack, which used to be almost exclusively like Hybrid Records branded stuff, is now like exclusively vintage band tees. My hopes and plans for what Hybrid is and will do in the future is to be a well-curated community for people that enjoy art, where they can not just like consume those things but also like create those things and like find other people that are interested in consuming or creating those things. So our doors have always been open to like people that either just want to talk about stuff that they like, or people that are trying to make stuff. Like, all of that can like start here. Right now is figuring out where we sit with all of that and like how we exist in those spaces, and like how we can best like serve our community given the restrictions that we all currently have.